The first rescue began at sunrise in the forest. A baby deer had wandered too close to a riverbank, its tiny legs trembling as the ground gave way. Within seconds, it was caught in the mud, sinking deeper with every struggle. The frightened cries echoed across the trees until a group of rangers arrived. They knelt on the edge, ropes tied around their waists, slowly edging forward. The deer's eyes were wide with fear, but when gentle hands finally grasped its body and pulled it free, the forest seemed to exhale. The rangers wiped the mud from its coat and released it back into the wild, where its mother was waiting, calling softly from the trees. The second rescue happened in a small village where a stray dog had been trapped in an abandoned well. Locals had tried to help, but the walls were slippery, and the dog's paws couldn't find a grip. For hours, it whined, the echo of its voice filling the empty space. A rescue team lowered a basket tied with a rope, carefully lowering it into the darkness. The dog hesitated, frightened, but the scent of food lured it inside. With careful teamwork, the rescuers lifted the basket, and as soon as the dog was safe, it wagged its tail, showering its rescuers with gratitude before running toward the children who had gathered to watch. The third rescue was perhaps the most daring. A young elephant calf had fallen into a hidden pit dug by poachers. The cries of the calf thundered across the savanna, drawing the attention of wildlife rangers. The mother elephant stood guard nearby, trumpeting in distress, her massive frame pacing restlessly. Approaching the pit was dangerous, the rangers risked the mother's wrath as much as the calf's condition. But they worked with patience, digging the edges wider with shovels, then tying ropes around a harness lowered into the pit. The calf, exhausted, struggled to stand, but with each pull from the ropes and the mother's desperate encouragement, it was finally lifted free. The moment its feet touched the ground, the mother wrapped her trunk protectively around her baby, brushing dirt from its skin. The herd gathered, circling the little one in a moment of reunion that silenced the plains. 3 rescues, each unique, yet bound by the same spirit, courage, compassion, and the belief that every life, no matter how small or mighty, is worth saving. These were not just rescues, they were stories of hope, showing the power of humans and animals united in trust and survival. When the sun dipped low and the forest grew quiet again, the rescuers gathered by their campfire, each one still replaying the day's events in their minds. They had saved 3 different lives, yet the weight of those rescues felt more than just victories, it felt like a reminder that every creature shares the same fragile thread of survival. The youngest ranger, Adil, sat staring into the flames. He had been the one who pulled the baby deer from the mud, and the sight of the fawn's mother pressing her nose against her child's fur still lingered in his heart. "It's strange," he whispered to the others, "how quickly life can change for them. One slip, one wrong step, and it could all be over." His voice carried both pride and worry. Beside him, Sana, who had been in charge of the dog's rescue, nodded thoughtfully. She remembered the trembling tail, the hesitant eyes that slowly softened into trust. For her, that moment had been about more than lifting an animal from danger, it was about showing compassion to a soul that had been abandoned for too long. "That dog didn't just want freedom," she said softly. "It wanted to believe in people again. And for a moment, it did." The fire crackled, and then they all turned to Iqbal, the most experienced among them, the one who had organized the elephant calf's rescue. He leaned back, gazing at the darkened sky, the stars just beginning to appear. "The hardest part," he said slowly, "was not the digging, or the ropes, or the danger from the mother. It was knowing that calf's life depended on us not giving up, even when it looked impossible." His voice grew steady, carrying the weight of years of rescues. "And when the mother wrapped her trunk around her baby, that's the kind of moment that reminds us why we do this." A hush fell over the group. In the silence, the sounds of the wild filled the air, the calls of night birds, the rustle of leaves, the distant roar of something unseen. The rescuers knew the world was full of dangers waiting for the unsuspecting, and they would never be able to save them all. Yet, for every life they did save, a ripple spread outward, touching not just the animals, but entire communities, entire ecosystems. The villagers who had watched the dog's rescue would tell their children the story, teaching them kindness toward strays. The forest deer, reunited with its mother, would grow strong, ensuring the balance of its herd. And the elephant calf, now safely back with its mother, would one day lead a herd of its own, carrying the memory of survival into the future. For Adil, Sana, and Iqbal, these rescues were not simply missions, they were lessons. Each one carried a truth, that every creature has a story worth protecting. As the night deepened, the team packed away their ropes and tools, but the emotions remained. Adil thought of his younger brother back home, how he would tell him about the deer. Sana imagined writing in her journal about the dog's eyes, so full of fear and hope. Iqbal, meanwhile, sat quietly, his gaze steady. He had seen many rescues in his life, but these three would stay with him. Perhaps because they weren't just about survival, they were about trust, about the unspoken bond between human hands and animal hearts. The next morning, before leaving camp, the rangers stood together, looking out over the land. The sun rose again, casting light on the forests, the village, and the endless savanna. Somewhere out there, the deer was grazing, the dog was running free, and the elephant calf was nestled close to its mother. And in that moment, the rescuers realized something profound. Saving lives was not just about preventing death. It was about giving back hope, to the animals, to the people who witnessed it, and even to themselves. Each rescue was a reminder that compassion still had power in a world often too harsh, too fast, too indifferent. They climbed into their jeep, the engine rumbling to life. Ahead lay more dangers, more cries for help that would reach their ears sooner or later. But they were ready. Because for every frightened fawn, every lost dog, every trapped elephant calf, there was a chance to fight for life, a chance to rewrite the ending of a story that might otherwise have ended in silence. As they drove off, the wind carried the lingering memory of those rescues, weaving them into the land itself. And long after the jeep disappeared, the wild carried on, but with 3 more stories of survival stitched forever into its fabric. 3 animals saved, 3 moments of courage, and one truth that echoed louder than all: the world may be vast and untamed, but kindness can always carve a place within it.